Metal Jesus here, and I'm back again with Kelsey.
Hello. So today we're going to be talking about Pokemon spin-off games. This includes games that came out here in America, games that never made it outside of Japan or Europe, and also some bootlegs.
And this is perfect for me because I don't know anything about Pokemon, so let's take a look. So, I don't know anything about this. Where should we begin?
I guess we should start with some games that you guys might be familiar with because they did come out here in the States. Some of you guys have probably even played these. We'll start with a real obvious one that I think a lot of you guys know.
I do have this one.
You do?
I
okay,
do.
Awesome. So this is Pokemon Snap. If you haven't played this game, it's an awesome kind of like, I guess it's technically a rail shooter, but you're taking pictures of Pokemon in their environments, and you get to do things like throw apples and throw balls at them to try to get them to do certain things to pose really well for a picture. This was really popular. A lot of people want this to come back, and I mean, I do too. You even have fun with this game, right?
Yeah,
you're not even a Pokemon fan.
Yeah, because I like rail shooters, so for me it was very easy to start playing it. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
So that's one you guys probably already know of. This is one of the ones I liked when I was a kid. This is called Pokemon Channel. If you guys might have played a game called Hey You Pikachu, this is pretty similar to that. You have a Pikachu that you're kind of just like roaming around in the environment with. There's also a big TV mechanic in it, and it's got a bunch of different channels on it that you interact with. You know, there's even like a coloring section on the TV, a bunch of really interesting, kind of weird, lots of mini games.
Is it a kid's game or?
I would call it a kid's game.
Okay.
You know, this came out in the GameCube era, just, I don't know, 5 years or so after the original Pokemon came out. So this is when people had started to grow up a little bit, but for people like me, I mean, I was still a kid when this was out.
That's cool. Okay.
And then finally, this isn't even a game, but they released a bunch of these. These are Pokemon videos. Literally just videos you put in your Game Boy Advance, and you can watch an episode of Pokemon.
It's kind of wild that they were able to encode video small enough to put on a cartridge to play back in the day.
I think so too, yeah, and it only has like 2 or 3 episodes on any of these, but they actually did this with a lot of series, including a lot of like Nickelodeon shows, and I think Yu-Gi-Oh! As well.
Does it look good?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I would say so, especially for the Game Boy Advance, because, you know, the games we're used to seeing on that are all like 16-bit.
Right.
So it was surprising that the screen has the capability to do something like this.
Is that are those collectible at all, the videos?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I actually won this in a contest for free, so I have no idea what they're worth. They're probably not worth a whole lot, because I've never really heard anyone talk about wanting them.
I could see me nerding out on it, though, especially if there's anime.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Pretty cool thing. So I'm going to move on to imports. Now, there's a lot of really, really cool import things that we didn't get over here in the States. Now,
before you start, though, I wanted to mention that you work at Pink Gorilla, which in Seattle has a bunch of stores, and they specialize in imports. And so is this where you got a lot of the imports at?
You know, a lot of these I actually got myself. I do a lot of importing personally.
Okay.
A few of these I did get from the store, though, and I can point out which ones those were.
Okay.
So I guess we'll start with my favorite one. Now, this actually came out in both Japan and Europe, but sad Americans,
Can you say what this says?
This is Pokemon Typing. I think this one's called, like, Play and Collect Pokemon Typing DS.
I thought you were going to say the Japanese words.
No.
That was a test.
Sorry. And of course in Europe it's called Pokemon Typing Adventure. This is super cool, and I'll go ahead.
So it's a keyboard for the DS.
It is a keyboard for the DS. This is the only game it works for, sadly. It would be really cool if it worked with Animal Crossing, but it doesn't. So it comes with a wireless keyboard, which I will take out and show you just because I think it's so cool. And the object of this game is you're kind of going down the line, just kind of like in Pokemon Snap, and you're typing out the name of the Pokemon as they appear, and as you type them...
Like Typing the Dead.
Exactly like Typing the Dead.
Oh, I love that game. I'm actually really good at that game.
Are you?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not so good at this one.
I can type really well.
Yeah? I'm like one of those point and...
Yeah.
So I'm not very good at it. But this is the really cool keyboard accessory that comes with it. It's wireless.
It looks nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then it also comes with a stand, which is nice so that your DS can be propped up while you're playing the game, and you don't have to like be looking like that all hunched over it. So the DS will sit up just like that. It kind of like a little screen in front of you, and then you can play with that wireless keyboard. Pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And this also came. There's a version with a black keyboard. I have not been able to find it though.
So no, you have both versions here. You have the import and the American. Do you?
This is European.
Oh, it didn't come out.
This one didn't come out in America, sadly, but this is in English. So this one's a lot easier. I just recently got this one, and I'd always been playing this one. It's kind of complicated because all the Pokemon names are not the normal names.
Right.
It's their Japanese names.
I see.
So, you know, I'll be like, oh, Tepig. Nope, just kidding. That's Pokabu. I don't.
Huh.
That's why it's a little difficult if you don't know the Japanese names for the Pokemon.
That'd be me.
Yeah. Or the English names in your case, maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
So here's another really weird one. This is called Pokemon Tretta. If you ever go to Japan, they actually have these giant arcade machines with a big Pokeball on it. You can kind of see it on the cover here. Right there. And there's usually a long line for them because people love them. So they come with these little Pog-looking things, and you battle these Pogs against other Pogs and can win the Pokemon in the machines. So this was actually, it's kind of the home version of it, and it allows you, it's an attachment for the DS that allows you to read what's on the Pogs, you know, look at what their types are, look at matchups. It allows spaces for 2 of them in there, so you can, you know, if you get a new little Pog, that's probably not what they're called, but that's what they remind me of. You can put them both side by side and see how they would match up. So, kind of cool. Just little chips, and it's got some of their stats on the back here. This is the one that came with a limited edition Pichu. This is the first print of this game. And it's really almost just like a Pokedex because you can't really do anything with it. You have to do all of the actual battling and getting of the Pokemon in the arcade part.
That's cool.
But it's cool.
Yeah. All right. I'll be Vanna.
You can, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and a lot of these are really big. So, oh, and this also does, it comes with a stand for both the 3DS XL and the regular 3DS, so. But it's a big box.
Yeah, it is.
So it looks a lot cooler than I think it actually is. This is a game that actually did come out in the States, but I wanted to point it out because the Japanese one comes with something really cool that we didn't get. This is Pokemon Colosseum. It's kind of like Pokemon Stadium, and it comes with this kind of translucent black memory card. Now, this is the only way to get the translucent black memory card. It's a Japan exclusive memory card, which I think is kind of a goofy concept, but but it's a cool thing to have. Just
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I love
and that
the
cover rocks.
Yeah, if you've never seen the Japanese GameCube boxes, by the way, they're obviously
awesome.
Very different than ours, and they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Here's another really cool one. This is Pokemon, it's called like Pokemon Beginning Cards, or Pokemon Beginner Cards. Someone who speaks Japanese will probably correct me on this, I apologize. But this is a game that teaches you how to play the Pokemon trading card game.
I love all this physical stuff. This is so awesome.
Oh, it's so great. We never get anything cool like this in the States. So it comes with the game, of course, and then a bunch of actual Pokemon cards. So you can start battling with your friends with the assistance of the DS kind of teaching you what to do. If you've seen like those cooking, you know, those recipe games on the DS, kind of think of it like that. You're just using the game as like an aid to help you guys play. And it comes with, you know, mats and counters and all the stuff you would need to get started.
That is cool.
Yeah. Another one you guys have probably seen in the States, but you may not know this. This is kind of a fun trivia. This is Pokemon Stadium. You remember we had 2 here. Well, they had 3.
Okay.
So they've got, this is the original Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Stadium 2, and then this is our Pokemon Stadium 2, which is includes the gold and silver Pokemon, so Pokemon from the 2nd generation.
Now, with all these imports, do you play them in Japanese? Are you able to get through them even not
Some
knowing?
of them.
Okay.
Pokemon typing is pretty easy. That I actually totally recommend if you like Typing of the Dead, and if you like Pokemon, it's a dream come true for you, and I think you'll be able to get through it. Even if you don't get the European one, even if you get the Japanese one, it's still pretty easy to get through.
Yeah.
It's just menu navigation, really. The 64 games, not so much. You can play them, and I've played like the mini games in them because these all have little mini games, but you would have to know all the names of the moves for it to really work. So the first Pokemon Stadium they got We actually never got here. This only has about 70 of the original 151 Pokemon in it. So it's not the full thing that we got, which is this one. So kind of confusing, but to recap, their 1 doesn't exist for us. Their 2 is our 1. Their 3 is our 2.
Yeah, I'm confused. Sounds like the Final Fantasy series.
Kind of,
like,
yeah. They just, they do that to us sometimes.
Yeah,
So, they'll figure it out. It's fine. This is the final thing I want to show off. This is super cool and a fun piece of Nintendo trivia, as well as Pokemon trivia. This is called the Nintendo Power cartridge, which sounds a lot like the magazine, same name. But in Japan, they had these cartridges you could buy. They're completely blank, and then you would take them up to lots of convenience stores would have a little kiosk where you would load a game of your choosing onto the game, or onto the cartridge.
This is awesome.
It's so cool.
Huh.
And you would pay for whatever games. A few games could only be purchased this way. So this one I'm holding right here is Pokemon Picross. That's the only way to get that game, and you guys have probably seen they're now releasing one for the 3DS finally after all these years.
Wow.
But so this is really cool, and this one's one of the more rare ones just because, like I said, there's no other way to get it other than through this download service. It also had a lot of other games like, Dr. Mario and Super Mario World, Donkey Kong, all those kind of things were available through this service. And they were cheaper based on how long they had been out. So you could download some of the older ones really cheap, and then some of the brand new games that just came out. Fire Emblem, for instance, Theratica, I think is how you pronounce it. Have you heard of that one? That was one of the games you could only get like this, and it retailed for 9,800 yen, or roughly like $75. So
wow.
Yeah. So that one was expensive. But most of these games were pretty cheap, and all the cartridges look exactly the same. So if you want to know what's on these, you have to actually plug it in and see.
Oh, because it depends on what you do with it.
Yeah,
right?
whoever wanted. I mean, they all look exactly the same, and someone could have put it in there and loaded Dr. Mario on it, or they could have loaded this really cool one, Pokemon Picross on it.
That is so. Where did you get that?
This I actually did get at Pink Gorilla.
Okay.
And they come in kind of randomly. People just kind of find them, and if you don't have a Super Nintendo or a Super Famicom or Retron or anything on you, you wouldn't be able to test it and know what's on it. It's not like most games where you can just read the label and be like, okay, I know what that is.
So you have some bootlegs that you want to show as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So I do have some really cool bootlegs here. These are just some of the things that I collect. Obviously, none of these are licensed by Nintendo in any way, shape, or form. This is some guy who decided they wanted to make a Pokemon game. So this one's cool. This is on the Mega Drive, and it is a platformer in which you play as Pikachu, and you kind of go through these different levels. It's actually really hard.
So is it a hack of a previous game, or is it all new?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think this is all new.
It.
No. But I've seen a couple people have found versions of this game on other systems as well. I've seen a Super Nintendo version of this, as well as a Mega Drive version.
Wow.
So obviously this one kind of got around. It was not just like a one-time thing. And I haven't gotten really past like level 4 on this because it's pretty hard. Half of the creatures in this are not actually Pokemon. They're just like random monsters someone created, and then some of them are Pokemon. So you go through a level, there's some enemies that are sometimes Pokemon, sometimes not on the way, and then you usually fight like a boss at the end. So there's like Snorlax and some other ones that you have to defeat, but it's not easy. This is not an easy game. And this is a really weird one. I actually haven't gotten this to work yet because you need a modded PS1. This is a bootleg PS1 game called Pokemon Crazy Hit, and this is lovely, lovely cover art. It says "Hit me" at the top. This is Whack-A-Mole with Pokemon.
Okay.
Yeah. I've watched videos of it, and still need to mod my PlayStation to get it to work, but...
You had to have it.
Yeah, but I had to have it. I mean, it was like $5, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's
just
awesome.
The cover art itself makes it worth it. And this is my favorite. I wouldn't really call this a bootleg. This is a ROM hack. So this is a fan-created one relatively recently, rather than a lot of these were probably passed off. And
ROM hacks where they start with an old game,
yes,
or an actual game, and they just swap out the artwork, basically.
Exactly, and the story and text and that kind of stuff. So this is Pokemon Fire Red originally, and it's called Pokemon Snakewood. This is Pokemon set in the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, dude, this sounds awesome.
Yeah. So throughout your time running through this Pokemon world, yeah, feel free to look at it. You run into a bunch of zombie Pokemon. You can catch them and use them on your team. You'll also run into zombie trainers. They usually have zombie Pokemon. There's some really weird parts. There's a decapitated Pikachu's head on a stick at one point.
This sounds awesome.
Yeah. And there's some guy who you fight halfway through it who has glued a bunch of Pokemon together to create just one like horrifying sprite that you end up fighting, and it just shows up as a monster. Like,
the fact that it has blood spatter on the cover.
Yeah, it's great. It's a little cheesy at times, and towards the very end they kind of break the fourth wall a lot, but it's worth playing if you just want something totally weird.
Wow, that's cool.
And this one works pretty well. Sometimes the bootlegs you find like are really hit or miss with whether or not they'll work on your system, but never had any problems with this one because this one's actually manufactured rather,
Yeah, you can tell by the cover.
Yeah, someone spent time and care on this instead of, hit me.
That's cool. Well, so this is just a small sample of some of the stuff you want to talk about, which I'm pretty excited about because I don't know if it's obvious, but I don't know crap about Pokemon. So, I have some, but I really haven't jumped into it.
It's kind of a younger person's thing, I would
You just called me old. All right, that hurts, but it's true.
Older than me.
That's true. But this is only the part 1, right?
This is part 1. I own quite a bit more than this, so if there's interest, I'm more than happy to share the rest of it. There's a whole lot more, especially English ones. I really only barely touched on the English ones, but more imports as well, and a lot more bootlegs.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. Well, we'd love to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Please let us know. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome. All right. Thanks for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing, and take care. They say with age comes wisdom. That's the theory anyways. You know what also happens with age? You get gray hairs. Did you notice in my beard? I'm getting some gray hairs. Damn, I still feel 18. What the hell? When did I get old? When did that happen? So annoying. So annoying.